Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to NS9LIVE. I am your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, we have Jim. We have Tyler. What up, everyone?
What's going on, everybody?
It is MLB playoff season. That's what's going on. Not that Tyler partakes.
It's football season.
It's been a pretty entertaining postseason so far. I've enjoyed every bit of it, to be honest.
It really has.
Yeah, it's been a good postseason. This round has been better than the wild card round.
Correct. What do you think, Tyler? Do you think this round's been better?
I'll speak for the people here. I'm a Pirates fan. When the season ends, I'm done. I'm a Pittsburgh sports fan. When the season ends, Steelers season. I'm done. Baseball season's over. We did 1,000 post-game shows. I'm not watching playoff baseball right now. Will I tune in here and there? Sure. Am I gonna dedicate my life to it at this point? Heck no.
Well, I don't think anybody's asking you to dedicate your life to it.
But me watching 2 innings feels like dedicating my life to it at this point. Okay. I'm moved on. I'm on the 2024. I'm like Bill Belichick. We're on to Cincinnati. I'm on the 2024.
That's fair. I was going to say, I want to know then your take. John Gruden for offensive coordinator?
No.
Okay. That's the end of that.
Yeah.
Well, for those...
Jay Gruden.
Still probably no.
Anyways. Yeah, I'm with Jim. I've found these to be entertaining. The wild card round, not so much. But that started some noise, and I think we're getting a little bit more noise.
What were your favorite parts of the game, DiNardo?
What's that?
What were your favorite parts of the wild card round? Like, just what's your favorite part that's happened? Since you want to trash me for not watching.
I don't know the favorite part.
Oh, weird.
Glasnow pitched decently. The Rays didn't score any runs. The Brewers didn't do anything.
Yeah. I'm glad Fangraphs told you that.
Okay.
You trash me, I trash you.
But yeah, like there was just the games were awful. Like the Brewers didn't show up, the Rays didn't show up. It is what it is. Like these are more entertaining games, I think, for a different aspect though. And I think what's making these games more entertaining is reasons we're going to talk and discuss tonight. This whole MLB playoff format that fan bases of certain teams are complaining about. Do they need changed? I think we're going to talk a little bit about it.
Are you asking us to talk about it right now?
I mean, let's kind of like limp right into it because I think it goes into what we're talking about.
Yeah, so I mean, there's something to I don't know. You've got a lot of national pundits and teams like the Orioles and the Dodgers and even the Brewers to an extent where they feel like they're getting maybe a little gypped because they did so well in the regular season. In the case of the Brewers, you won your division and you play 2 games and you're done. The Orioles, you win 101 games. You play 3 games and you're done. I think this just kind of goes back to, we discussed this topic 2 years ago, I think, on this same show, where if you're going to change the format of the postseason and allow this additional team in, going to do, it may create for some good TV, and that's what we're going for here ultimately. But what you're going to do is you're going to diminish the value of the regular season. The more teams you allow into a postseason, the less important what you accomplished in the regular season becomes, right? So that is the bed that Major League Baseball has made for itself. I don't think there's any going back. Like the Major League Baseball is not going to say, oh, you know what? 6 teams can't make the playoffs from each league. Now we're going to go back to 4 or 5, right? That's in the past. It's never coming back. The only way that you do away with this whole bye situation where teams are complaining about days off is by adding even more teams, which all that's going to do is create even less importance in the regular season. And just the way baseball is, if you're playing a short series, literally anything can happen. The best team is still going to lose a lot of times in a best of 5 or a best of 7 series. You need to decide what you want to be. Does the champion want to be the best team, or do you want the champion to be just the hottest team at the end of the league that made for really good TV, right? That's what playoffs are. Playoffs don't necessarily in any sport determine who the best team is. You look all around. I mean, there's every once in a while the best team will win in the playoffs, but that's not what postseason is. Postseason is a made for TV event where you take the best teams from the regular season, you put them up against each other. So you get really good entertaining television, you get really good competition, and then whoever's the best on that particular day ends up winning an entire season championship, right? So I think it's just people are maybe confused as far as like what the postseason is there for. The postseason isn't meant to determine who the best team is. Really, a 162 game regular season is there to determine who the best team is. The postseason is just there to say, okay, who's got the best 3 pitchers who can go out there every night and a lineup that can feed off of a crowd and energy, and who can do that for 4 weeks, right? That's what the postseason is. It's entertaining. If this is the format that they choose, this is the format that they choose, and I like it. If you're going to complain about a layoff, like if you're going to say, hey, you know what, we don't feel ready for these games because we haven't played in 4 or 5 days, then guess what? You're a Major League Baseball organization. You've got a 40-man roster. You've got a AAA team. You've got a AA team. Go play your own freaking games. Like, just if that's the thing, is just, hey, we don't feel like we're ready to play, then what are you doing during those 5 days? Like, just scrimmage yourself. I mean, you got enough guys to do it. So it's just an excuse used by teams who lose. I understand it. Like, as a Pirates fan in 2015, I was pissed off, right? We won 98 games and the whole season was over in a day. But you know what? It was a pretty entertaining game when, the Pirates
it wasn't.
in 2013, super entertaining and fun when we were on the other side of it. And I know I'm kind of talking and rambling on and on and on, but that's my take. And so someone else jump in.
There's nothing left to say. Go ahead, Tyler.
Well, no, I guess just to jump on the point that Jim made about the teams complaining about the layoff, the other part of that is that you actually have the ability to line your pitching up. Like, that is a giant advantage. You legitimately can set up your pitchers. That's huge going into that series. I think looking back at this year, we're looking at a small sample size. If we look at this and extrapolate it over 10 years, it might be a different story where maybe 3 years in a row, the team that has the bye ends up winning and it turns into a big advantage. We're looking at this very on a micro level. And yeah, it's baseball. We're going to overreact to everything. It's a 162 game season and we act like it's life or death after every game. So naturally, we're going to act like it's life or death whenever your team actually gets eliminated when they were probably a better team. It happens. It's something I think you need to evaluate over more of a period of time. I don't think you can really come to any conclusion right now based upon the teams that had a bye losing.
So we're all in agreement that all the people crying about the format being changed are idiots, correct?
I think it was way worse when there was a 1-game wild card. Way worse situation.
I absolutely agree to that. Because that takes everything away. I mean,
that's legitimately a crapshoot.
It really is, and again, like Pirates fans, as Doug put in here on the chat earlier, but like Pirates fans can definitely attest to this. There was a lot of complaining about the wild card and it did change, but I think that makes a huge difference in the way the format is, and it makes things more fair. But I don't want to make this as if we talked about the Pirates or Pirates fans, so we can complain about that and it's okay. But now that this doesn't affect the Pirates, we can say you guys need to stop whining. It is much different. It's a 1 game. There's no series. It's a 1 game do or die. They've made it more into a series now, so things are more fair. It's more baseball like. But I think the biggest thing that we're missing here, and you guys have said it though, right? But like the biggest thing that's being missed and complaining is, well, the best team, right? Postseason is different from regular season. You manage regular season different from postseason, right? You manage to last 162 games to have depth to be able to get to 162 and have the best record, right? The team with 10 starting pitchers is going to make it there opposed to the team with 5. The difference is, and this is why you hear it, like you hear us talked about, not time and time again, but you hear it talked about, right? This team is built for the postseason. Why do you say that? Right? It might not be, and probably isn't the best team, but this team is built. Why? Because like Jim said, they have 2 workhorses. They have 3, right? Their number 4 and 5 starter might be terrible. And that's why they couldn't win this series, because 2 out of every 3, they're at a disadvantage on. But when this goes into the postseason, they only need those 3 starters. And now they have a clear advantage of the team who maybe won the division, right? The postseason is just different. You don't necessarily have to be the best team in a 162 game season to actually be the best team to win the postseason. That just is what it is. And different teams strategize differently. Some teams look at it as it's a crapshoot to get into the playoffs. We'll talk about this later, some foreshadowing, right? So let's just have a team good enough to get us there. But if we know that we're good enough to get there, we can do some damage. And some teams go all in, and injuries maybe play a part. They're not as good as whatever. So, you know what I mean? So like the postseason is just different. You can't just say this was the best team in baseball and they deserve being in the World Series, because the postseason is just different. And if you want to mirror it more like that, and if you're complaining about the days off and stuff like this, then you know what? If you want your number 4 and 5 pitcher to have an effect, if you need to pitch them like you did in the regular season, then you got to play every single day. There are no days off in the postseason. Treat it like the regular season. You're playing every single day. Make your number 4 and 5 pitcher start like they did in the regular season.
So I'm with Doug here. Doug says I'll take the bye every single year. Yeah, I would rather win 7 games to get to the World Series as opposed to 9. Like, that's just basic logic. And I think if you took this over a long like I said, we're Tyler mentioned this. We're dealing with a very small sample size. We're dealing with like a 1 year right here. I would venture to say that if we were to do this and we kept this format for 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it may be, at the end of the day, the better team is going to advance 55% of the time, right? Like, that's just kind of how it would turn out after a pretty large sample size.
54% was right there for you, Jim.
Yeah, that's true. But right around that number. But no, I'm with you, Doug. Like, give me the bye. Give me the bye. If I'm worried about being cold, I'd rather be able to line up my guys, my 1, 2, 3 starter. I'd rather be able to line those guys up with 5 days rest after the regular season, and then just figure out a way to keep everybody fresh during that time period. I think people are making way too big of a deal than it really is. Like, postseason's hard. Playoffs in any sport, it's hard. You've got, at any point in time, you've got probably a handful of teams, 5, 6, 7 teams that legitimately have a chance, like a good chance of winning a World Series. Like I said, but for real, like 5, 6, 7 teams, like legit shot at a World Series. And guess what? Only one of them wins it. So you're going to have a bunch of teams who lose and don't accomplish their goals and don't meet the expectations that they've set for themselves. And so you hear a lot of people complaining about the format because guess what? There's more losers than there are winners at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, on the other hand, though, like if it does turn out that for some weird reason having that bye turns out to be a disadvantage, which I don't think it will be, there's a pretty easy fix for it. You just make them not have a bye and they play. Like, there's an easy fix if it turns out 5-10 years from now that it's not working out the way that it probably should, or that you don't
you'd have to
that
change the
advantage.
number of teams. You'd have to change the number of teams because there's really no way for everybody to play if there's 6. Like, that just doesn't.
Make it a round robin. I don't know. You would just
like 1 versus
change
6,
the actual
2
format.
versus 5, 3 versus 4.
That's actually not a bad idea. You could do it kind of like World Cup style or like World Baseball Classic style, where you've got like a group, everybody plays each other. But then you'd have to have
how's
a
it not work if you
centralized
have 6
location.
though?
Because then what do you do the next round when 3 out of the 6 win?
I don't know. Figure it out. I guess that math does math.
Then you get the bye.
I didn't think that far ahead. All right, then add 2 more teams. Then they're gonna do it anyhow.
Well, and then all you're doing is just diminishing the regular season even more. I mean, if you're letting 8 teams from each league into the postseason, then it's like, what's the point of even playing 162
What's the
games?
point of an NHL season? What's the point of an NBA season? At some point, we're gonna get there. Baseball's just
that's
behind
what
the
Jim's
curve.
kinda
Like it's
saying.
going to happen.
Yeah, those sports play 82 games. You know, it's half the amount of games played in baseball. You got a 162 game season to determine who the best teams are.
Yeah,
If
but
you
the
open
best
the
team does
postseason
not
up to
matter,
more,
as we've already discussed.
oh, I understand. And like I said, the more teams that you add to the playoffs, though, the less and less it's going to matter.
Yeah, but the Pirates might make the playoffs then. It's really what
Tyler.
I care about.
I'm with Tyler. If the Pirates can make the playoffs, let's do it. Because I'm tired
Let
of
them all
talking
in.
about meaningless baseball 162 times a season.
Let's just have a 162 game tournament.
Here's what we need. We need playoffs just so we can have Tyler watch postseason baseball so that when we're talking in October, he knows what's going on.
Honestly.
Yeah.
I hope Manfred's listening to the
There you
show
go.
right now.
Yeah. It's all about me. That's all it comes.
Yeah, Rob Manfred. There should just be a Pirates slot in the playoffs every year. It should just be automatically clinched.
My brain's just really not right. That 6 teams, and I was thinking like, yeah, that works out, man.
What
We're
if
glad
Not
to
a
have
good
you
brain day.
if you win the draft lottery, you also clinch the playoffs?
Yeah, I love that. If you start rookies on
Imagine
opening
the
day
tanking you'd see
that are
then.
in the top 100 prospects, you make the playoffs.
Automatically.
That way we get the best of both worlds.
Skeens is going to be
around it.
Skeens is never making his debut until the playoffs next season, just to ensure they can tank, make the playoffs, and then we'll put our best guys out there.
There we go.
Andrew McCutcheon's going to be in the IL till September 29th. Hopefully hit his 300th and then go to the playoffs.
But you brought up a good point about like the teams built for the postseason, right? I mean, like look at the Braves right now. The Braves had hell of a year, 104 wins.
Right.
But like outside of Spencer Strider, can you really trust anybody right now? Max Fried is hurt. Like he's got a blister. He pitched, okay, pretty good. And the Braves ended up winning game 2 thanks to some like offensive heroics. But you now have the Phillies winning game 3 at home. They've got game 4 tomorrow in Philly. So all they got to do is win, and then they're in the NLCS. A team like Philadelphia, where you can go out there and you can throw Zach Wheeler, and you can throw Aaron Nola. That's that's their 1-2. They're number 3. That's kind of all that they've needed so far. Ranger Suarez ended up out pitching Spencer Strider game 1 there, but like that team, just with the energy that the offense brings, the way that they play, the bullpen, it's a team built for the postseason. You saw that last year too with the run that they made. Whereas you've got a team like the Braves, where dominant season, historical offense, but then their pitching just got hurt towards the end here. You're missing out on Charlie Morton. Max Fried's got the blister issue. You're turning to guys like Bryce Elder, who we talked about this on Starbucks last week. Like, yeah, Bryce Elder did fine in the regular season, but like, do you really want to put Bryce Elder out there in a postseason game, with your season on the line? Probably not. So you're looking at a team now that'll won 104 games, and they're 1 game now away from elimination.
Yep. And here's something I want to point out too as well, because I think this is like another thing that a lot of the national people are missing out on, right? And of course it's national, and of course big markets dominate baseball, right? Like it's the Yankees and the Dodgers, the Braves. Like these are the teams you want to see. There's the teams that spend. Those are typically the good teams, and you want to see them. Like you would want to see the Yankees in the World Series every year, right? Because that's going to draw the most fans. You want to see the Dodgers in the World Series probably every single year, right? They'll draw the most fans. That's going to be big baseball stuff, right? But here's the thing. That's not the most entertaining part. And you talk about sports and entertainment, they're synonymous, right? the sport thing is, and especially in baseball, like it is baseball. You can win or lose in any given night. Like the course of 162 games will weed out who's better, right? But as like Jolly Roger reports here, like the A's swept the Rays back in June. Why? Because it is baseball. Like baseball is a crazy sport. And in the sport of baseball, anyone can beat anyone on every given day. And the entertainment part of this is like what's going on right now. It's the Dodgers, right? And like baseball probably wants to see the Dodgers in the World Series. But honestly, the Dodgers being down 0-2, it's quite entertaining. I'm sorry, but it's quite entertaining. And it's talk, right? And a lot of people are talking about it. And it's drawing eyes to the sport probably as well, because look at the Dodgers, look at Clayton Kershaw choking once again in the playoffs. Like, here we go. And it's dialogue, and everyone's talking about, ESPN's talking about, MLB's talking about, you know what I mean? Like, it's getting a lot of talk. It's getting a lot of entertainment value to it. Like, the underdog story is still something that is relevant. Everyone appreciates the underdog story. And the Arizona Diamondbacks are absolutely the underdog story. You know, I'm not going to say like the Phillies are underdog story to the Braves, but like the Phillies, what they're doing to the Braves right now, that's also entertainment. This is what makes baseball good. This is why people are drawn to the sport of baseball. So like, it's not the worst thing in the world to have top dogs ball. I understand it's not like what the fan bases want, and you know the teams might seem discouraged. Like, I invested all this time, we were so good for so long, and now we're out. Well, sorry, that's how it crumbles. You fell apart. Like, you talk about the pitching with the kind of the team I'm talking about. They had the depth. They're good. Their offense is great. Like, they had the depth to last and get them through the regular season. But now that it's postseason, like, they don't have those 2 or 3 dudes. The Phillies do. 80% of this series is going to be Wheeler and Nola. They're toast.
Yeah, and I think you can kind of compare it to, you know, the tournament that everybody knows and loves is March Madness, right? And the reason why it's so mad and crazy and exciting and people love it is because you get these crazy upsets, right? Now, crazy upsets every once in a while are fine because it creates entertainment. At the same time, you get too many upsets, and then, you know, next thing you know, you've got Florida Atlantic and San Diego State in the Final Four, right? So that's kind of the problem sometimes with a lot of upsets is it does create matchups that maybe you don't necessarily want to see if you're just like a broad, wide audience, but like in the moment, it's awesome. Yeah, like these Phillies games are great. Would people probably rather watch a Braves Dodgers NLCS because those are the 2 most talented teams in the National League? Probably. Like, it would probably draw more eyeballs, it would probably draw more attention, but it's not happening right now because those 2 teams are losing, and they're getting upset by teams who are they're just hotter right now.
So I guess just to relate this back to the Pirates, I think this is what we were talking about around draft time when we started to lean more Paul Skeens, and we talk about the pitching and how you end up with a World Series. Getting a guy like a Paul Skeens is a big part of being one of these teams that can make some noise in the playoffs. The Pirates really haven't had one of those. So I think that's kind of what we were gearing towards when we kept maybe hoping the Pirates would draft him rather than a Dylan Cruz.
Yeah, that's fair. You've seen a lot of times where just having a pitcher, I mean, we saw it happen to the Pirates twice, right? Just having one guy can not only win you that big game to get you to the next step in the process, but like he can win you a World Series. One guy pitching lights out can win you a World Series, and we've seen it, you know, happen time and time again with Madison Bumgarner and the Giants. We saw it happen with the Cubs. So it's just, yeah, like having that dominant guy can be a complete game changer when you're in that postseason, and it's not necessarily a matter of who the best team is.
Yep, I agree. I want to go back to March Madness analogy a little bit here too. Jolly Roger liked it, and like, you are correct. That's why March Madness is so fun, because the upsets, right? But if you have like 2 like really inferior teams going forward, it kind of makes that game. But like, I guess where I'm at with that is, we're not talking about like the 40th best team. You know, like you said, like there's probably about 7 teams that are worthy go to the World Series each year, right? Well, how many teams make the playoffs? Like, we're not talking about the 40th team in MLB playing the Dodgers, and then they're the one taking out that team, and it's the 39th team taking out the Braves. And you know what I mean? Like, it's still good teams. The point still very valid. I just want to go here and say, I don't think it's still anywhere near as watered down as like those two teams you mentioned, March Madness, playing together. But very valid point.
Yeah.
However,
Question.
Yes.
If the Pirates were the 6th team in this playoffs right now, out of like 100 times, how many times would they win the World Series? The 2023 Pirates are the 6th seed in the NL.
The
how many times?
2023 Pirates?
Yeah. How many out of 100 are they winning the World Series?
0.
I'll say 4.
0.
They'd win it at least once.
Out of 10,000 simulations, I'll say 5.
Yeah, I'll say they can win. What is that? So they would have to win 4 series in a row. I think that you can. Maybe a 4% chance.
You have to assume they're going to call Paul Skeens up if it's playoffs right there. You got Skeens, you got Keller, you got Oviedo.
Although I don't know, a certain team that's complaining about the format didn't call up their number 1 prospect who maybe could have helped them.
Shade. Love it. Yeah, I don't know about that.
They're winning it at least one time. You give them 100 shots, they're going to do it.
I'll say 1. 4, that's a mountain that's too tall for me to climb.
One time out of 100, they could do it.
1, yeah, I said 1. 4 is just no. But I just want to go back because we are relating this to the Pirates and with the bye and stuff, and you are 100% correct. And I think what we haven't talked about is exactly what the Pirates went through in that situation. Like the team that's fighting to get into the playoffs is usually the team that's in the wild card round, right? Like there's probably a team like the Marlins are one of it. Like there's teams that are fighting to just get to the playoffs. They're using their studs during that regular season. Like think about back with the Pirates, like were they going to pitch Cole? Were they going to pitch Liriano? Because like they got to win the game. They're trying to, you know what I mean? But then it's like they also could be playing in the wild card game. So how are they going to line that up? When you get that bye, you don't have to worry about that. So I think again, like we talk about the advantage. Everything's so wrapped up in the disadvantage on the bye. Oh my God, our players they don't know what to do. They've rested for too long. They're too healthy now. What can they do? Right. And it's like, look about the team that had to like fight just to get there. Now they're fighting to stay there. It's been fight. I mean, a complete disadvantage. These teams have every advantage. If the only problem is they've rested for too long, you don't have a problem, guys. You don't have a problem.
No, I mean, at this point, it's just it's baseball, and baseball's weird. Like the best team doesn't win that often in baseball, especially when you're dealing with in the playoffs. You're dealing with all good teams. Like no one sucks, right? Like none of these teams are terrible, and even terrible teams are going to beat the best team 1 out of 3 times on average. So when you got a bunch of good teams playing each other, like even though you may not be the best team, you're still pretty good. And you got a good shot of beating the best team in a small, short series.
Right.
But it has to be hard to like have a bye and then come out and play in front of 14 fans.
There was 18, Tyler. Let's do this. Let's take a little break from ourselves talking in this sense. So one thing we started, if you haven't seen it, tweet out. We're going to talk about right now. So we are going to I think we've pretty much discussed it on every NS9 Live. We're going to go ahead and introduce the topic early. We have an NS9 phone number. We want to hear your comments, your takes, right? So we'll tell you what we're talking about beforehand. And then give us a call. You call, leave a voicemail. We'll go ahead and play it, and then we'll discuss. So we do have, we put it out there today. The phone number is 412-626-7479. I repeat, I'm just a professional, guys. 412-626-7479. But yeah, go ahead and give that call. Leave us a voicemail. We'll maybe go ahead and play it on here and we'll discuss. So let's go ahead and do it. So we did have a caller. It was Yark. He has some talks.
Hey guys, Yark. I'll give my take since I'm in this crawling down 2nd Avenue on my way home on the playoffs. the format's fine. The playoffs are for fun. Yeah, great. Yeah, everybody, it's all about the championship, this and that. But right now, it's fun. Elimination games are fun. Watching Arizona and the Rangers make their run with these young guys and a couple of pieces they added, that's fun. Watching the Houston team be a juggernaut again, that's fun. Watching the Dodgers lose, the Braves and the Phillies butt heads, it's all fun. The format is fine. Obviously, it'd be better if the series were all longer, but it's not a reflection of what has happened in the regular season, and that's okay, and it's been that way for a long time. Now, the problem is I keep seeing that people are talking about incentive and what the Orioles did wrong or right or at the deadline and this and that. The Rangers, whatever the Rangers did at the deadline didn't even help them against the Orioles. So that's complete nonsense. They won 100-plus games in the hardest division in baseball. So even if Jim agrees with me, he's wrong. We all know that. He's always wrong. Thanks for having me on, guys. See ya. Let's go Bucks.
I like Yark. He's correct in everything he said. Every single thing he said.
I like Yark too, but he was definitely wrong on the last part. But here's the deal: me and Yark agree.
Wait.
So that means he's actually wrong. If that means that I'm wrong, so it's just wrong by association.
I mean, I don't really disagree with him about the playoff format being fine. I think it's fine as well. I guess my only disagreement would be that the playoffs are fun. I don't want the playoffs to be fun. I don't want it to be like a little mid-season tournament that the NBA's got going.
You don't want it to be fun? Like you don't want to have fun watching?
I don't want it to be
he's
like
a Pirate fan.
the way
he doesn't like fun.
I don't want it to be for fun. Yes,
okay, you're right. Like it's not like the All-Star game.
This is not for fun.
Yeah.
Like this is the most important thing. Whoever had the best record in the regular season, I know we all said that probably does determine who the best team in Major League Baseball is. But it means nothing. The thing that means something is the playoffs. It's where, yes, it's fun, but it's fun because it's so intense. It's not just we're on the playground playing pickup. That's the other thing I disagree with. I just enjoy the intensity of postseason baseball and the way that managers manage. I wish we could do that every single day. I wish 162 games were managed like that. I know everybody's arm would blow out, but whatever.
I was gonna say you're not seeing the playoffs likely, but it's okay.
I don't care. I want every game to mean something.
So what's funny is you're basically telling us you hate regular season baseball.
Correct.
Yet you watch 162 regular season games.
Roughly.
But you love playoff baseball.
Correct.
And you omit all playoffs.
I don't omit it.
So you are like you do hate fun. You don't
well, yes, that's correct.
Enjoying yourself, fun. Tyler.
Correct. That's all correct. But what it comes down to is I am burnout, man. I'm tired. I don't want to watch more baseball.
Yeah, I don't know if we can compare Tyler to like a regular fan. I mean,
I'm not
a lot of baseball, a lot of post game shows Tyler's done, a lot of NS9 lives throughout the season. But I agree. I agree with like the postseason is there for television. Like it's there to create good TV. It's entertainment value. Yes, the games mean a ton, and that's why the games are so entertaining, because every single pitch, every single moment means so much. Whereas during the regular season, like you mentioned, Tyler, like you'll have big moments in games and you'll have big at bats and you'll have big hits, but like at the end of the day, it's just 1 out of 162, right? Like if you drop it, it's not that big of a deal. There's plenty of other games you can go out there and win. There's plenty of other opportunities that you're going to have a big hit. The postseason is completely different in that there are no other opportunities. There are no other games. That opportunity, that pitch, that game right then and there means everything, right? And that's like I said, that's what leads to the intensity. That's what leads to how fun and entertaining these games are. Like this Phillies Braves series has been electric, right? The Twins Astros series has been excellent. the Rangers, Orioles, like you saw the Rangers just kind of roll through them. And like I said, LA and Arizona are battling it out right now as we speak, and LA is fighting for their lives. So you've got games that just mean so much. And yeah, it's great TV. It's great entertainment. It's great for fans. Maybe not the best for the teams and the players because you don't really get a whole lot of shots like you do in the regular season.
Try not to suck.
You know, you just gotta be
Kershaw.
you gotta be good in the moments that matter.
And like another big thing, like you touched on, that's the way you manage it. It's 1 out of 162. When Johan Oviedo has that rough start, right? He gives up 5 and 2, but then he goes 5 innings and still ends up with just 5 earned runs. You look back and you congratulate, hey, you know what? At least he gave us 5 innings. Like it's like he was bad, but he fought through it. At least he gave this team 5 innings. You're not doing that in postseason. You can't afford to give up 5 and 2. You know, like every moment matters. You know, like again, like in the regular season, you give up that many runs, you're kind of. I'm not going to say you're conceding, but there's moments where you're just conceding, like save the bullpen, right? Just eat these innings, save the bullpen. It's 1 out of 162. We're going to lose today, whatever. You can't manage that in the playoffs. You can't. So, like you said, like every pitch matters and everything, every moment is intensified. That's what makes the postseason great. And that's why, like this series that's going on right now, they've all been really good. Like so many moments, you know. So many moments, even like again with Kershaw giving up that was big. That's talking points. That's entertainment, and that's where the two mix again. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just again like to kind of wrap this up in a sense. Like I don't mind the format at all. I truly don't think there's disadvantages for the teams that earn the right to get those buys. It might not. There's real, like you could lose rhythm. I get that, right? But you still have a clear advantage over that other team. So you just have to do a better job building yourself for the postseason.
Even if, like, just manage better. Be a better coach. Like, if you're whining about having rest time, you're a bad coach. Get over it. You're a bad management system. Get over it. That's on you.
Yeah,
How many buys have the Astros had the last 6 years? They all went to the ALCS for.
Yeah, like that. Really though, that's next. Are we going to start complaining because we sweep a team and another one goes to Game 7?
I think I've heard people complain about that before.
I hope they lose tonight so they have to play another team, another game.
Right.
Yeah. Like sweepings is bad.
Yeah, you don't want to advance to the next round too quick, you guys.
Yeah. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, like I would much rather have a 100% chance of playing in the divisional series than a 50% chance. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
So there it is. So no change. This is fine. This is more than fine. This is good.
If we were going to make a change, I would go backwards. That's my thing. Like I didn't want this format, but we've got it, and so this is what we're going to live with. If we could make a change, I would go backwards to less teams in the playoffs. I'm not a huge fan of like the one game, but I
think I'd rather just make that go backwards, make that one game into a 3-game series, and then call it.
Well, then you're giving even more teams.
I know.
Tyler.
Well, get over it. We've already established that nobody cares about them whining.
But then it's fine because everyone gets a bye.
Now, granted, if the Pirates somehow in my lifetime get a bye because they're a top 2 team and they lose after that bye, I'm going to whine so much about it.
Oh, absolutely.
I reserve that right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we'll knock on Busto Olney's door and say, write us an article. And we'll say, no.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care about the Pirates.
Yeah. I'm going to whine so much.
Cody says, I like the one game when we won the one game. I hated the one game when we lost, right?
I love the one game in 2013.
Yeah, like 2013 one game playoffs. It was awesome. 2014 and 2015. stupid.
Like slightly same but different take. I like the idea of a one game unless it's your team. Like regardless. It just isn't right. And of course, as Pirate fans, you relate to it. It's a great atmosphere, do or die. I mean, that makes that game. You talk about everything matters, like every single thing in that game matters. But holy hell, is it stupid? Because we're talking about, you're talking now like teams built for the postseason, right? If you have 2 or 3 guys that are just studs, right, and your 4 or 5 don't matter. If you have that one guy that's just untouchable, like it's call it a day. And again, as Pirate fans, you can attest to that. You have one, if you're a wild card team and you have the Cy Young guy, basically, you've advanced. Congratulations. Not even going to play the game. So that's why it sucks. But the atmosphere of that game is immaculate.
Yeah.
It was immaculate one time.
It was great in 2013.
It was really, really immaculate for Cubs fans and Giants fans as well.
Yeah, we don't like them.
Correct.
God, I was so miserable after 14 and 15.
15 really stung too. Like
Yeah, that
15
one hurt.
really stung.
That hurt.
I mean, at the end of the
How do
day, though, like if you don't want to be put in that situation, then you just got to be better.
It's fair. It's also hard to really be better than a 98 like win team. Like that's tough. That's why it's a tough pill to swallow, because you could be better, but that's a damn good team as well.
Yeah, I feel like we could have a full episode about everything that went
let's
wrong
stop.
that year, but let's
Let's
not do that tonight.
We're hitting us all in the feels right now. All right. Do we want to move on to the next topic? Kind of hits us in the feels.
Sure. Yeah. Astros won, by the way. So they officially advance.
Wow.
Just heads up.
You know,
Also,
I wouldn't pay attention to that score.
Arizona just took a 2-run lead. Perdomo and Ketel Marte home runs in the third inning. So they are up 2-0 against the Dodgers in the third.
Angel and Starling?
Bye-bye.
Ketel and Geraldo.
Anyways, so another thing we want to talk about, which relates very much to Pirate fans. Jerry Dipoto, he opened his mouth this past week. And I guess...
What did Dipoto say?
He pretty much said what you shouldn't say as a GM, right? And I think we can talk, like Jim, you made some interesting points on it. And I think that's what we talk about. More or less, he said, you're trying to win 54% of the games. Right? Like that's what you're trying to do. Some years you'll win 60, some years you'll win 50, right? And averages out. And that's how you get there. But like if you can win 54% of your games over like a decade, right? He's like, that's what the better teams do. When you look at the best teams, that's what they do. They'll get in the playoffs most times. Sometimes you won't, right? But if you are one of those teams that wins 54% of the time, chances are you're getting the playoffs. And I think it kind of goes down like what Jim was saying. Like that's how GMs are really looking at this now, with the playoffs being more watered down. Regular season doesn't matter as much. You just need to be a team that could win 80 games. And if you're that team, then come the trade deadline, you decide to add and you go forward. Why does this relate? Well, it's basically what Neil Huntington talked about like his entire tenure. Right?
I mean, go ahead.
No, real quick, not just Neil Huntington, but we've even heard Ben Sherrington talk about the projections pointing the Pirates towards a 4th place team when they're 20-8. Sorry, Jim.
No, I think it just goes back to like there are a lot of strategies to, building a contender and constructing a team, especially if you're not like one of the big markets, right? Like, do you just operate in windows? Do you try to keep it so that you can sustain success over a period of time? And so it's an interesting conversation because I don't know if there's a right answer. Like I really don't. And I think every organization's a little bit different. And I don't think you can like make a cookie cutter statement that says, no, you can absolutely compete year in and year out, no matter who you are. And I don't think you can just say, no, the only way this team's going to compete is by, picking and choosing its spots, building from within and operating in windows, right? It's a hard discussion because I really don't like it hasn't been proven yet. Like it hasn't been proven that like one way works. There's a lot of there's a lot of ways out there to build a competitive team and win championships and going to the playoffs. And there's really not one way that just like every single time you do it, it works. And there's not a way that's every time you don't do it, it doesn't work. Like there are success stories and there are exceptions to pretty much every single way you can approach it. So it's a little difficult. I think what Jerry Dipoto is saying is, yeah, over a 10-year span, if we win 54% of our games, like we're going to be a pretty good team. The teams in the last 10 years who have won 54% of their games, there are 5 of them, 5 only. This is not a thing that a lot of teams do. So it's a successful, it's a good thought. It's a good thing to shoot for, right? The Dodgers, the Yankees, the Astros, the Cardinals, and the Guardians, only 5 teams to accomplish that over the last 10 years. And you're talking about 5 teams that consistently make the playoffs, not every year, but 8 out of 10 years, 7 out of 10 years, they're in the playoffs and they're competing for championships. So I think it's a good goal to have. I don't know if I am on board with his, he added in there, I think his quote was, we're actually doing the fan base a favor by operating this way. I think he probably would have been smart to leave that part out. But I actually like the transparency and the openness and at least explaining to the fan base, hey, this is our goal. This is what we're trying to do. And if we accomplish it, you guys are going to be pretty happy. Like year in and year out, you're going to be happy. And yeah, you may have 2-3 years out of 10 where we don't make the playoffs, but you're going to be in the playoffs almost every year. You're going to be competing for World Series almost every year. And it was refreshing to kind of hear him say that and kind of outline his strategy. Could have done without the whole, we're doing you a favor by operating this way. That just kind of gives off, I'm way smarter than you vibes. And I don't think anybody really appreciates that. But I think overall, it's a good strategy. It's a sound strategy if it's executed, right? So that kind of is going back to the whole, it's got to be executed in order for it to work. And, a lot of people are saying, well, the Mariners haven't made the playoffs that often. Well, guess what? They haven't executed on this strategy. They don't have a 54% winning percentage, over the time that Dipoto's been there. Just because you're hitting 54% every once in a while doesn't mean you're hitting your goal. So I think that's kind of what I think there was just some confusion there. I think it's a sound strategy. I think it's a good thing to kind of talk to your fan base about. He said some things that I wouldn't have, but again, it's just weird because I don't know if there's just like one way to go about this thing.
Denardo, you might as well just go.
You want me to? Okay.
Yeah, just go.
You look tired. Too much postseason for Ty.
Ty's tired of nerds.
Okay. Well, okay, that's fair. So I will go next then. Because I'm torn on this. And the reason I'm torn on this, I can go multiple ways. Let me start off here first. Let's talk about the transparency. That part I can at least appreciate. And the reason I say that is, like, we talk about this a lot. You've dealt a lot with it with Neil, right? Ben's now in place, and they're virtually the same person when it comes to talking to the media and giving anything, right? There's no transparency. So I can at least appreciate the GM telling you what it is, right? Because now you can just bash him if he's executing his plan, right? We don't know what Ben Cherington's plan is. So you're just bashing him on everything and anything because you have no idea what he's doing. So you don't know if he's failing or succeeding because you don't know what the plan even is. And therefore we question if he even knows what the plan is, right? So we know what Dipoto's doing in Seattle. So now you can judge him for that. So I appreciate that part. Yes, saying you're doing us a favor. Don't say that again. You've lived and learned now, Jerry. Don't do that. Right. The next thing is, though, and you hit it, though, Jim, I'm torn on that plan working. Yes, there's not enough to prove that it can or won't. But when you name the teams like the Dodgers, who were the 5 teams again? The Dodgers, the Cardinals,
Dodgers,
the
Cardinals,
Guardians.
Yankees, Astros, Guardians.
Okay. Dodgers, Yankees, Astros, right? Now the Yankees have been slipping a little bit these past few years, but regardless, top tier organization. Like when you look at those 3 organizations, as far as analytics, as far as building a team from within, as far as like having the money to, like there should be no excuse. Those teams have all the resources to do so. When you look at the Guardians, smaller market, right in line with the Pirates, but they build and develop among some of the best as well. Like you have to be a top tier organization, because if you don't have the resources financially to do so, to do that, right? And I guess the problem coming with this is to sustain it, you are going to have to make some difficult decisions that are going to go against the fan base, who and when you trade. You're going to have to turn over, maybe not to the level of the Rays, but that's kind of where I'm going with this, right? To sustain this, you're going to have to keep this train going, because when you bottom out and you're getting the number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 or 5 pick, right? 4 years in a row, you can build those and have top tier guys. But when you're winning and getting number 25, 26, 27, right? You're not getting that through the draft. So you're going to have to keep this going by trading guys to get that farm, pump it back up to fill in the next players, right? And that's tricky to do. You got to be really, really good. And so coming from the Pirates side, I bought into that with Noah Huntington, because even though he didn't say it, he all but said, like, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to sustain success here, right? We're trying to sustain it. We're not doing windows. We want to sustain success. And I bought into it. I saw that farm system. I saw that major league team. Like the Pirates would be good for a decade at least, until it lasted for 3 seasons, and that was it. So like you're hitting on the head. Like the Pirates more or less tried this model. They didn't execute. They should have went for windows, because they, in doing 54%, give or take their actual model, like they had 3 years of playoffs. They should have just went all in for those 3 years and gotten the same place, but maybe didn't get the wild card games and maybe advanced, maybe got into the World Series, and who knows, So like that's where I'm at. Like I can appreciate the plan, but you have to execute it. And I'm weary on the execution part for teams not in LA, Chicago, or New York, or Houston.
I'm so tired of the nerds.
Speak to us then, Ty.
Man, I'm tired of it. I guess to not take this off the rails here, the big thing about the Dipoto thing and the 54% is that you're really relying on the in-house projections there. And if you're not hitting that, it sounds like your projections are just wrong and you guys aren't very good at this. It's the same thing going back to Neil Huntington. Well, if we ran this simulation so many times, we would have won this many games. Sounds like your projections are wrong and you guys aren't good at this. It's just a bunch of, we're so full of ourselves and we know we're right that we don't know what we're actually doing here. And yeah, the Rays can do it and they can get away with it. And truthfully, if I'm a Rays fan, all 12 of them, I'd be losing my mind, because I hate the way they run their team. I hate that every single time they have a player for 3 years, they have to trade them away. And that's the only way that they can keep their window open. It's just going to be a long-winded little thing here that I'm trying to keep short. But the way that teams like the Pirates will have to be able to maintain a run of success, to me, is bad for baseball. It's bad for fans. It makes it really hard to be a fan of a team that has to continue to meet these projections by doing things that probably aren't friendly to a fan. I think that's my big problem with the analytical takeover of baseball, is that it's not very fan friendly. And we can go back to even just the launch angle revolution. I don't want to take it into that, but even that's not fan friendly. That's not good for baseball. Is it the most analytical, savvy way to do things? Sure. It's not good for the sport. That's where my argument comes into all of this. It's not fun to be a fan of a team that is at the cutting edge of analytics.
Unless you execute.
Even then, like if I'm a fan of the Rays, I have a hard time enjoying it because every time I find a new player I like, he's traded. And then I got to find another one. Then I got to find another one. Then I got to find another one. I get like winning cures all, but
what you just said there, like a team on the cutting edge of analytics, that's the Astros, buddy. You know what I mean? And hey, Houston has a lot of fans and they're enjoying themselves. So I think I agree with what you say, but I think when you also put it to like what Jim said, there's no right way unless it works. You know?
I guess my problem would be that more teams seem to be going the Rays route or trying. Well, I guess to rewind here, the Astros are in a little bit of a different situation where they're going to spend a little bit. The Rays are not. The Pirates are not.
Correct.
Like it's a little bit different there.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of go back to where I don't think there's a cookie cutter way to do this because every organization is different. Every market is different. Like can the Pirates operate in a way where they sustain success over a 10-year period of time? We haven't seen it happen yet. So I don't know if it's possible, but we also haven't seen anybody really come close to even come close to executing that plan. Like Neil Huntington was the closest we've seen, and it happened for 3 years, right? But it faltered towards the end because there were a few moves here and a few moves there and a few moves here, and then it just all fell apart, right? You got to avoid making one mistake turn into two mistakes, turn into three mistakes, and that's when this sustainability model fails, right? So, and DiNardo, you said, Pirates should have operated in a window. I don't know if that's the case. Like maybe they should have just executed their plan better.
Well, what I said was
I really
doing their
don't
plan,
know.
it failed. So they did it for nothing.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it failed, and most teams' plans do fail. I would rather see teams try to sustain success over a long period of time as opposed to the constant tearing down, rebuilding, tearing down, rebuilding, tearing down, rebuilding. I would, like, as a fan, I want to be able to go into every single baseball season thinking I've got a shot, right? Like that's what I want to see. I don't want to go through a 3-4 year stretch where it's opening day and you're like, well, today's the best day of the year because every game after this is just one step closer to being eliminated from the playoffs, right? And that's kind of where the analytical side of things is kind of going that route where, hey, the best way to build a winner is lose a lot of games for a few years, stockpile talent, and then bring everybody up all at one time. And you're seeing a lot of teams do that. Whereas, like I said, I would rather my team go out there and try to win year in, year out and sustain it over as long a period of time as I can. Now,
I guess that
I also get like, yeah, go ahead. I also get like flags fly forever, right? Like the Royals winning the World Series, they will always have a flag out there that says that they won the World Series, right? And the Mariners don't have a flag, right? But they've won more games than the Royals have over the last 10 years.
Like even the Rays.
Yep.
Would you rather be a Royals fan in your lifetime or a Rays? I don't know.
I don't know either. I really don't know.
Let me present this. I want to present this scenario because I feel like I talked about this before NS9 when I had DiNardo's dugout. That came first. Like I talked about this scenario all the time because I was buying into Neil Huntington. This was always the thing I talked about. And it's not that it has to be one or the other, but at the end of the day, would you rather be a Royals fan who had those 3 really magical years, came out with a World Series, and outside those 3 magical years, you've had 7 horrendous years? Or would you rather be the 2006 Tigers to 2015 Tigers, who never won a World Series. But damn it, they came in second, fifth, second, third, first in the division, right? Made the playoffs 5 times, got into the World Series twice, got in the ALCS 3 times, right? Never won it, but every year they were a contender. They were good. Which would you rather have? And I think it just me talking like I think it just comes down to personal preference. But like that's what you're looking at. And what the Tigers did, like they didn't win, but that's damn near hard to do. Like that's what Dipoto is talking about. He is trying to do something to sustain success, to give themselves an opportunity for 10 years to get in the playoffs as much as they can. The Royals could have ultimately not won a World Series one of those years either. You know, and all you have is 3 good years and 7 terrible ones. At least the Tigers, like the
Sounds
fans,
familiar.
Right. But at least the Tigers like had a decade worth of fun baseball that you're involved with every single day. I don't know what's right or wrong.
No, I'll
To
take the
me,
World Series.
honestly, I would take the Tigers because I don't want 70% of my life being wasted talking about 162 games that don't matter.
No, I'll
If
take
that
the
makes
World
sense.
Series. Nope. I want to be able to just crap on people. Yeah, we won one though. That's all I want.
I don't know how many Royals fans see you here crapping on people though.
I don't know any, but I'm sure they can.
It's like I said, it's a good question, and I don't know if there's a right answer. Like I said, I think it is a personal preference. I mean, championships
Yeah,
are
that's
awesome.
what I'm getting. I don't think they're
they're awesome.
there's not a right or wrong to it. It's what you would want.
Jim,
And maybe
we're
it just comes down
Steelers
to, like,
fans,
what
and
the
people
fan
are still
base-
talking about the 70s.
That's
I don't know about true.
Imagine
Cowboys, that's
Pittsburgh
true.
with a World Series in the 2020, like 2020s.
I
We
will
would
say
be
this: like a championship,
insufferable.
it's lasting. Like it lasts.
Oh yeah, and we would make.
So
You know how annoying we would be?
I mean, Pirates fans even now, like every 5 years, it's the whatever anniversary of the 1979 World Series team because
Oh.
that's like all there is, right?
Well, I was going to say, to Tyler's point, and the we, so we can include the we's in this. I mean, how often do we talk about the Cueto game? And that was just a wild card game. So yeah, imagine the Pirates winning a World Series. Yeah, you're never going to hear we're going to be so annoying.
We would be insufferable.
Yes.
Awful. People would hate us. But like to go back to the earlier topic, I think that's kind of where I sort of appreciate Neil Huntington is that it felt like he was trying to toe the line between fan appreciation of we're going to try to keep these guys around as long as possible, the fan favorites, and try to extend the window. Like the Rays would have traded Andrew McCutchen way before they signed him to a contract. Or if he would have signed that contract, they would have traded him like 2 years after. It seemed he just towed it a little bit too far to the edge and then also he just couldn't trade worth a damn. But he tried to be the middle ground between the Rays and a larger market team, and it just did not work. But I think it's also
I just want to say something
or draft.
I want to dispute your point because
Go ahead.
Longoria is a perfect example. Like I know as much as you want to bash the Rays, they do some of the things that you're not accustomed to them doing. Like for one, although this is a bad example right now, but they signed Wander to
thou
this
who
huge
shall
deal.
not be named.
Right. But like, so Longoria, 2008 through 2017, he was a Ray until he was 31 years old. Age 32 is when he went to the Giants. So like, that's not completely fair. They actually had him longer than the Pirates had McCutchen.
All right.
And that's the same timetable.
Yeah, maybe. I guess it's more with the mid-level players that they wheel and deal.
They know when to deal and when not. Like that's just what it is to me. I feel.
I just rather be like the
when
Cardinals.
to pull that trigger.
And
he was MVP talk at age 30. Age 31, he went down slightly his production, and then he was traded. And then that's when he went to the Giants. It was like meh.
He was also in the last year's deal.
Yeah, I mean, I
Are
think
we
if you're,
talking about Longoria or McCutcheon? Because they both went to the Giants.
Longoria. Oh,
Okay.
yeah,
I think
they both did.
if you're talking about a team
All
that
the
you really
parallels.
want to,
Yeah.
if you're talking about a team that you really want to model, like it's St. Louis. Like it's not a huge market. They're just always really good outside of this year. Like that's an anomaly, but like they're a really, really well-run organization in almost every aspect. And you know, you're not like the Cardinals are going to be back, right? Like we're not like the Cardinals are not going to be NL Central basement dwellers again. If I had to bet, so that's an organization you kind of want to look at and see like what are those guys doing? We need to be doing that.
They draft really well.
They draft well and they develop really well.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm gonna say to that. You're absolutely correct. They're like that model team. They are smart. Like how I talk about the Indians, the Guardians. Sorry, Jesus, the Guardians. That's the Cardinals built baseball. They like to me. I feel like they understand they're going to be good. That's why the fans are there, right? Like they've built it from the ground up. They understand that the fans come because they're there for the fans. They put out a good product, right? So it's all reciprocal. Like money keeps coming in, they keep spending it, so it keeps coming in. But they're also very, very smart. And the reason they're not good right now is because they become very, very dumb. They've made a lot. Like you talk about, Jim. You don't want to make. You can make one mistake, but you don't want to make 2, 3, 4. But look at the playoffs right now. You know the Pirates fans have dealt with the playoffs coming, and all the announcers dunking on Pirates fans, saying, "Look at this guy who is from the Pirates. Look at this guy's from the Pirates." That's the Cardinals right now. Like, look at this person who's in that dumb trade. Look at that person's dumb trade. Like Zach Gallen right there, because he wasn't the Cardinal way. And now he's beating the Dodgers right now. Like, there's a lot of mistakes the Cardinals made, and now they're feeling it. But you're absolutely correct. Like that, I'm going to say, was the model. Although they can't get there. They've done a lot of bad things lately. But you're absolutely correct. Very similar markets, but they've built it. They've sustained it. The fans are going to come and keep supplementing their wallets, and they're going to keep spending it. So that way they keep coming to supplement the wallets.
Does it not feel like the Cardinals are kind of like the Patriots right now?
Ooh.
Yeah,
Like
good
it's
comp.
just
Yeah.
maybe times have passed them by a little bit, and the new age of player, the Cardinal way, the Patriot way, it's done.
Yeah, they'll have to adjust.
Maybe like the Steelers do.
Yeah, well, we only have to go there. Maybe
Sorry,
the Louisville way.
My Dolphins aren't like that. We are the new age.
We need to
baby.
turn into the Louisville way. Go get us a Jack Plummer.
He's no Jake. Isn't?
But
By the way, off
actually,
topic. Isn't he selling
DiNardo.
shrooms now?
Yeah, man.
What?
Jake Plummer.
DiNardo, I think you did. You
I don't know.
actually like offhand gave a pretty decent little analogy there about the Dolphin way. Like that's the way things are going now. Like you hire a guy like a Mike McDaniel, and I know it's a different sport, but like you kind of buy into this new age type of deal. Maybe not in the super analytical department, but you get a very smart person that's not a Tony La Russa.
So Tyler says, I hate nerds. I don't want any more nerds. But then he goes, you need to hire a nerd.
It's a different type of nerd.
He's the coolest of the nerds, though.
He's not a
honestly.
nerd sitting behind a
He's
desk.
a cool nerd because he's winning right now. Like once he loses, then he's just a nerd.
He's such an.
He's not a nerd sitting behind a desk. Those are the nerds I don't like.
Okay.
He's out there like in the trenches.
Yeah, he's such a dick in like the best, funniest way that people love you, though. That's what I love about him too. Like he's on that podium and it's just, I don't know. Anyways,
But
I guess you're right.
something along that line.
I know it's before your time, but we have talked about here. But like we discussed, like our biggest worry when Ryan and I were talking about the hiring, our biggest worry about Charrington was it's Neil Huntington 2.0. Different, but like there was like every parallel you could almost imagine between the two. You know, just not even talking about like where they grew up and the school they went to, but there's so much. And you're right, like it is almost they're different, like they operate differently in some ways, But it's very much like Neil Huntington 2.0 that you have here. Is it the new wave? No.
I think you could say that like Neil Huntington, when he was hired, was kind of the new wave, right? And then they just kind of continuing with just another version of that. I feel like the Pirates are just lacking in certain areas, especially when it comes to spending money. That's probably their biggest their biggest area that they lack in is just like getting the resources and allocating them to player development. And we've heard stories like when Connor was on with you, like the Pirates don't have any sort of like pitching laboratory that pitchers can go to and use all this equipment, right? Like other teams may have this stuff. Colleges have like Paul Skeens had more stuff at LSU to work with than he does in the Pirates organization. Like that's something that has been reported. So like at some point you need to invest in the team in areas that you're lacking. And I think the Pirates are just, you can clearly see that player development is an issue just based off of this year alone. Like you had a lot of guys who took steps back, or like they tore up the minors and you think they're ready for the majors, and then they come up and they're just way in over their heads. So I mean, this is a whole other topic for another day, but yeah, I don't know if the Pirates are necessarily old age, like in their personnel. I just don't think they're new age when it comes to just like the things, like the basic things you need to do to just like build an organization.
Yeah, TrackMan's like 20 grand.
And so 2017. Like,
yeah, I'm just saying, like,
it's 2023, guys.
But I'm just, a lot of this equipment's like 20 grand.
Right.
It's the amount you paid just to call a guy up to fill a spot for a day.
Yeah, it's literally like you paid Drew Maggi more to sit on your bench for a week.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
But
I just want to make sure you're correct, Jim, because Ethan's going to call you out if it's incorrect.
Drew Maggi made more than $20,000.
All right.
And
just
also,
want to make sure.
like, great story.
I'll even look.
All right, let's back off.
Pulling up Ethan's spreadsheet. Go on.
How did we get here?
I don't know.
Oh yeah, the 54%. But no, I mean it was like when that came out, that's all I could think of was the Neil Huntington era. Because it really is like everything that's in my mind, that's how Neil more or less operated. He just wasn't able to execute it. So I don't know, like Jim said, we've all kind of agreed to
$23,226
For
Drew
TrackMan
Maggi.
or Drew Maggi.
That was too close for comfort, Jim. See?
It was more though, more than 20 grand.
Well, I don't know exactly how much a TrackMan costs anymore, but last I looked, it was like 18, 19 grand.
Well, inflation.
I'm sure with upgrades, it might be more expensive than him.
But at any rate, yeah, I don't know. I can at least appreciate his comment.
Sure.
It's gonna come down to execution.
But the problem is that the execution comes down to your own damn numbers. You're making them up. And when you're wrong, that's on you.
Yeah, no, again, it goes back to the executing the plan.
Oh.
I think there's a lot of plans that work. It's just a matter of like, if you don't execute your plan, then you're going to fail. Yeah. And like Jerry Dipoto's plan is sound. It makes sense. But if you don't execute it, then it doesn't work.
And again, like that, to your point, though, that might mean that at the deadline you got to make a trade, so you can continue executing that plan because you're off on your projections. You're down a little bit. At any rate, I think that kind of wraps up our show. It's been an hour 15 on just two topics, but definitely two that I thought we want to talk about. So I thought it'd make some good conversation.
Yeah.
Update on the score, Jim.
4-0 Diamondbacks in the fifth.
Dodgers
Brand-
getting swept.
Yeah, Brandon Pfaadt goes out there and throws 4 1/3 scoreless.
Pretty cool.
Louisville
Huh?
native Brandon Pfaadt, by the way.
All right, we're out. Everyone have a good night. We'll see you. No, but for real, tomorrow though, Jim, you're going to be on twice tomorrow. It's Jim Thursday.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk to us about it, or just say
Yeah. So an episode of NS9 Cardboard coming out tomorrow, Thursday, October 12th at 5 p.m. So check that out. Topps Update was released today, so opened up a box of Topps Update. And then Out of the Park stream tomorrow night, probably after Thursday Night Football's over, 11:15 p.m., somewhere in that area. First place Pirates going into July.
First time you'll hear that on this show. All right, cool. Yeah, so tune in, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Peace out, Scouts.
See you guys.
Hey, you all. Thank you for watching. I know we try to provide the most entertaining content that we can, and we'd love to spread it to as many people as possible. So I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you could take the 5 seconds to like this video and subscribe to the page, it helps out so much more than you know. Thank you, and let's go Bucks.